What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sports Earth. In this video, I will be ranking the top 40 prospects in the 2021 NBA Draft. So I did this video about a month ago, and you guys really seemed to like it. And of course, we have the draft coming up next week, so I'll have a mock draft in the next few days. And this video, of course, right here. So we're going to get started with numbers 1 through 8. So at number 1, I've got Cade Cunningham. This should not be a surprise to anybody. He's the clear-cut top prospect in this draft. He can shoot, he can pass, he can defend. There's Luka Doncic comparisons, and for good reason. Cade Cunningham is a great prospect. At number 2, we've got Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley's a solid shooter. For a guy who's 7 foot, his point guard skills are really impressive. The way that he's able to dribble and drive, and even facilitate for an offense. You know, Evan Mobley, he's such a promising, athletic young player. And he's dominant as a shot blocker, as a rebounder, and as an inside scorer. So Evan Mobley, he's a very impressive player and should have a big impact from day one on an NBA team. At number 3, I've got Jalen Green, the electrifying shooting guard from the G League. So he's coming from G League Ignite from the United States, but skipped college, played 1 year with G League Ignite, and now he's going into the NBA draft as one of the top prospects here, due to his athleticism and deadly scoring ability. This guy's a great shooter, but he also has the ability to score from the mid-range and down in the paint. He's able to drive into the paint and score over bigger defenders. So Jalen Green, you know, he's not a great defender himself, but his scoring ability definitely keeps him up here among the likes of Mobley and Cunningham. And now at number 4, Jalen Suggs. So I just barely put Suggs behind Jalen Green. I really like Jalen Suggs, though. He's a good shooter. He's very athletic, is able to distribute for an offense, and he's a very good defender as well. Jalen Suggs, he's high IQ. He knows what he's doing, and this is a very, very exciting player here, Jalen Suggs, and definitely one of the top prospects in this year's draft class. At number 5, we've got Jonathan Kuminga, another player from G League Ignite. He's 6'8", listed as a power forward, but he could play the 3 position as well. So looking at Jonathan Kuminga, you know, he's got a developing jump shot. It's not great right now, but he's been working on his form and his overall shot. So I do anticipate a few years down the road, once Kuminga is into his 20s, I think that he's going to be a good jump shooter. And of course, he's super athletic. You know, he's great around the rim because of his ability to get around defenders, just because of how athletic and how quick he is. For a guy that's 6'8", it's really, really special, and he's a solid defender as well. Jonathan Kuminga looking to be a pretty good draft prospect. At number 6, I really like Scottie Barnes, but I could not put him over Jonathan Kuminga. So Scottie Barnes, he's sort of a point forward. He doesn't really have a great jump shot. We've seen Ben Simmons comparisons. So the things that make Scottie Barnes great: he's a very good facilitator. You see 4.1 assists there. And that number, I assume, will probably climb once he finds his role in the NBA. Scottie Barnes is a great passer. He's a good inside scorer, high basketball IQ, and he is a lockdown defender. He does all the little things, and he's a very high-energy player. But, you know, the jump shot, it kind of holds him back some. But I do think that he will develop his jump shot enough to be considered and break that Ben Simmons sort of label as, you know, a big guy who does everything but hit jump shots. So I do think that Scottie Barnes will be able to develop a jump shot, but right now it's not really in his game. At number 7, I've got Moses Moody. This is a guy that I really like. He was much lower on the board last time I did this video, but I really like Moses Moody here at number 7. So he's 6'6", coming from Arkansas. This is a great 3-level scorer. He can shoot from anywhere on the court, and he can go inside and get buckets in the paint as well. And he's a very good defender, and solid on the glass as well. So Moses Moody kind of brings you everything that you want. And, you know, he's got a high ceiling because of his unique scoring ability. At number 8, this is kind of a tough pick, but I've got Jalen Johnson here at number 8. I'm really high on Jalen Johnson, coming from Duke. Of course, he opted out midway through the season, but this is a very, very good prospect here. So Jalen Johnson, he's super athletic around the rim, and he's not a bad defender either. And he's actually a solid facilitator for his size. So I think that's something that is probably an underrated part of his game, but I think it could help him during his career. And, you know, he's not a great jump shooter, but it's also not awful. And as long as he has a little bit of a three-point shot, I think that his athleticism is going to be able to help him out, and not necessarily improve his three-point shot, but I think it will give him a very special place in this league as a player who can finish at the rim and defend at a high level. So now we're heading on to the next group of players, 9 through 16. At number 9, I've got Tennessee guard Keon Johnson. So this is another guy with a developing jump shot. He's super athletic and he's a very good defender. That's what makes Keon Johnson so exciting. He's such a high-flying player on the offensive side, very versatile, and then on defense, he's a lockdown. You know, there are some great defenders in this draft, and Keon Johnson is one of them for sure. But the three-point shot, not really there yet. But I think he definitely has a lot of upside there. At number 10, I've got James Bouknight from UConn. So, as a true shooter, you know, James Bouknight, he's not super consistent, but he's able to create at such a high level for himself. He's able to create off the dribble. That's what makes him so amazing. James Bouknight, he's great off the dribble, and he's able to create shots that he can hit. He can hit three-pointers, but the big thing for James Bouknight is his ability to create for himself off the dribble, and that's what makes him such a dangerous player. And the three-point shot is good. So James Bouknight, he's very dangerous. He's a very tough guard. You know, on defense, he's not great, but he's also not horrible. At number 11, I've got Kai Jones. This is an exciting 6'10" power forward. He can run the court, and he's super athletic in the paint. Has another guy with a developing three-point jump shot. And, you know, Kai Jones, it's going to be important for him to be able to stretch the floor in the NBA. But he's so athletic on the inside. I think this guy, he definitely has a very high ceiling. At number 12, I've got Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell's another one of those players that sort of does all the little things, but is kind of overshadowed. But he's a good jump shooter. He's athletic enough. However, he's very old, so some teams are probably going to pass on him. Some rebuilding teams will likely pass on him in this draft to get somebody that's younger and has a higher ceiling. But a team like the Warriors, for example, not saying that's where he'll go, but a team like the Warriors that needs somebody who can help them win now, that would be the best fit for Davion Mitchell. He's a good facilitator, good shooter, great defender, and he does all the little things and has a very high basketball IQ. At number 13, I've got Zaire Williams from Stanford. So when you look at the stats, when you look at Stanford's record, you'd think, oh, this was a very disappointing freshman season for Zaire Williams, but it really isn't. This guy on tape flashes a very special ability to facilitate and pass, and even though he only averaged 2.2 assists per game this year, Zaire Williams, this guy could be a very good passer in the NBA. He's super athletic, has a good jump shot, but that low field goal percentage is mainly due to his shot taking. You know, the shot decision making, the shot selection is not great for Zaire Williams. And that's something that he's going to have to work on, is taking the right shots, taking the shots that he can hit. And I think, you know, Stanford, they don't have a whole lot of talent. They're not a big-time basketball power in the Pac-12. But I think going to an NBA team, you know, Zaire Williams, maybe he's a little bit of a project, but I think that he's going to be able to trust his teammates more and not necessarily be forced into those jump shots because, you know, Stanford, they weren't a great team this year with a lot of big-time offensive scorers. So, you know, defensively he's solid, and I think he's going to be a little bit of a project, but I really like him. I believe that I am higher on him than other people are. At number 14, I've got Franz Wagner from Michigan. So Franz Wagner, he's a solid three-point shooter. You know, he's not super athletic, and he's another guy sort of like Davion Mitchell. Not a super high ceiling, but he can help you win. And he's a great defender, high basketball IQ. He's sort of like Scotty Barnes, Davion Mitchell, in the idea that he does all the little things, but you know, he's not super flashy. So Franz Wagner, he's a solid prospect. Fringe lottery pick in my eyes. And I think this is a guy that could go as high as maybe even number 8, number 7. This is a guy that definitely has some good traits. And he's a solid facilitator as well, but I just don't see him as a complete enough player. At number 15, I've got Josh Giddey coming from Australia. So he's labeled as a shooting guard, but probably fits best as a point guard. He's a great facilitator, but, you know, not really a great three-point shooter. And it's something that he's super young, so it's going to improve. But I don't think it's going to improve to the point where you're going to want him taking a whole lot of three-point shots for every game. But this is a guy that can pass And defense isn't necessarily a strength either. But Josh Giddey's a guy that I'd be willing to take a risk on him and his upside as an athletic finisher and as a passer. Josh Giddey has a very good offensive game, and it's only going to improve just because of how young he is. At number 16, I've got Corey Kispert coming from Gonzaga. So if you need a guy that can come in and knock down some shots for you, that's Corey Kispert. Not super athletic, not an amazing defender, but Corey Kispert can shoot. And that's the only reason really that he is ranked this high. You know, he doesn't really do a lot of other things great, but he is one of the best shooters in this draft class. So similar to Franz Wagner, similar to Davion Mitchell in the idea that, you know, he doesn't have a super high ceiling, but he can help you win now. So Corey Kispert could be an important player for a very good team from his rookie season if he's in the right role. Now we're heading to numbers 17 through 24. At number 17, I've got Sharife Cooper, freshman point guard from Auburn. He's one of the best passers in this draft. And he's a very good inside scorer. You know, not a great jump shooter, but also he's young. It's going to improve. We've talked about that with some of the other guys in this class. But I don't think that his jump shot has a super high ceiling, and it's not going to magically become a very good jump shot. Sharife Cooper definitely has a long way to go there, and his defense, being 6'1", defense is not going to be a strength for Sharife Cooper, but I really don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be. Sharife Cooper is not a horrible defender. On film, he has a high IQ, and he does what he needs to do for his team, even though he is at a size disadvantage. Sharife Cooper, I think that he has the potential to be a starting point guard in this league. I don't think that his defense is going to hold him back quite as much as people think. At number 18, I've got Alperen Şengün, a center from Turkey. So Alperen Şengün, he's dominant at the rim, and he's super young, but his jump shot is not great. Can't really stretch the floor too much. And, you know, that's a little disappointing when you see this big overseas prospect, this big man especially. You know, you kind of hope that he'd be able to stretch the floor and come in and be sort of a unicorn type player, but that just is not the reality for Şengün. But he is very dominant around the rim, and he does have some upside, so I do think that he can develop into a solid NBA player even without a super strong jump shot. At number 19, I've got Usman Garuba. This guy is one of the best defenders in this draft class. And while he doesn't have a great offensive ability, he's going to be able to score around the rim, and he's going to be able to guard possibly all 5 positions on the court. This guy is dominant as a defender and has some upside on offense. And he's a great athlete, so I do expect Usman Garuba to turn into a very solid player. Number 20, I've got Jaden Springer, another young athletic guard from Tennessee without a great jump shot, but he, you know, he can score around the rim some, and he's going to be able to defend, but the jump shot just isn't really there. And number 21, Isaiah Jackson is one of the best athletes in this draft class, but the reason he's so far down is he's just not a shooter. And we talked about it with Şengün. You know, these guys, you kind of need them to shoot. But Isaiah Jackson, you know, he's great around the rim. He can score around the rim, and he's one of the best shot blockers in this draft class. And he's able to get boards, but he just can't shoot. At number 22, I've got Trey Mann from Florida. Similar to James Bouknight, you know, he's able to create at such a high level for himself and for others. But I feel like he has a more consistent jump shot than James Bouknight, especially from long range. So I like Trey Mann, but defensively he's not great, but I do think this is a solid first-round pick. At number 23, I've got Greg Brown, another Texas big man. This guy's a decent shooter. He's a good rebounder, and you know that jump shot's going to develop some. He's young, and he can score around the rim. Solid defender. So Greg Brown, very solid prospect overall. At number 24, we've got Jared Butler, another one of those safe picks that just doesn't really have super high upside. So Jared Butler, he's a good shooter, a good defender, good facilitator, and a great leader with high basketball IQ. So Jared Butler, he's a very good player, but I just don't see him as a super high level prospect coming into this draft. Now at number 25, I've got Cameron Thomas, sort of similar to Trey Mann in a way. I'd say probably a better overall shooter than Trey Mann, but he's just such an amazing scorer. And what Cameron Thomas is able to do from all 3 levels on the court and the way he's able to create is truly special, but just not an amazing defender. but the scoring ability is definitely there. At number 26, I've got Day'Ron Sharpe. So he's another athletic big man that just can't stretch the floor, and that's why he's down as far as he is. He just can't stretch the floor, and it's sort of holding him back some from being ranked higher. But he's very athletic, he can rebound, and he can score inside, and he's solid defensively. So I do expect Day'Ron Sharpe to be a solid player. At number 27, I've got Isaiah Todd. So this is an athletic prospect with a developing jump shot, but I just don't know how much I can, or how highly I can really rank Isaiah Todd, just based on the overall defensive ability. I'd say, he's pretty good defensively, but there's definitely some improvement I think that could be made. Same with offensively, but overall Isaiah Todd, solid player. At number 28, I've got Daishen Nix. I don't really love his jump shot. I don't think it's quite that great, and defensively he's solid, but he's a pretty good facilitator. So overall, I think Daishen Nix is a solid prospect, and both those guys are coming from G League Ignite, same as Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga. At number 29, I've got Charles Bassey. So Charles Bassey, not really too much of a three-point shooter, but he can shoot. He can shoot the long ball, and he's able to rebound, and he's able to score inside. But those stats are definitely a little inflated. Probably make him look a little bit better than he really is to the casual fan because he was at Western Kentucky. But this guy is a dominant player in the paint, and he's able to stretch the floor to some extent. At number 30, I've got B.J. Boston, Brandon Boston Jr., freshman from Kentucky. He had a disappointing year. Shot selection is an issue for him as well, and he's got a good three-point shot, but he just didn't really use it right. And he has athletic, not a great defender though, and there's just too much to work on for BJ Boston, but he has the athletic ability and the potential with his jump shot to be really, really good. At number 31, I've got Trey Murphy III from Virginia. This is a guy that is sort of the definition of a 3-and-D player. This guy can shoot. He's a sniper from long range, and he can defend, but he just doesn't really do a whole lot else. And he's not insanely athletic, so that's why he's not really ranked much higher. At number 32, I've got JT Thor coming from Auburn. So JT Thor, he's super athletic, but also just super high ceiling. But also there's some risk in there. I have some questions about the jump shot, but defensively he seems pretty promising. And overall seems like a promising prospect, but I just can't rank him too much higher. At number 33, I've got Ayo Dosunmu. So Ayo is, was Illinois' probably best player this past year, averaging 20 points, 5 rebounds, 6 rebounds actually, and 5 assists. So there's some concern about him off the dribble. Athletically he's not great, but he's a good defender. He can score, he can shoot, and he's got a high basketball IQ. So overall, Ayo is a pretty good prospect. At number 34, I've got Chris Duarte from Oregon. So this guy is a knockdown shooter, and he's solid defensively as well, solid as a facilitator, but I don't feel like his overall game is enough to rank him too much higher. Joe Ayayi, he's one of those guys that sort of contributes and does all the little things. So he really helped Gonzaga get to the national title game this past year. He's a good shooter, good defender, and he sort of does all the little things, but I don't think that I think he's probably a borderline first-round pick. At number 36, I've got Josh Christopher. I'm not really sold on Josh Christopher. I know a lot of people have him rated much higher. He's a good athlete, and there's definitely some upside with this guy, but I'm just not feeling the hype. He's not a great three-point shooter. I think he's going to have to improve some, but he's able to score on the inside, and he's not a horrible defender either. So there's definitely some upside with Josh Christopher, but I think the three-point shot is going to have to become much better. At number 37, I've got Jeremiah Robinson Earl. So this guy has improved a lot on the defensive side, and that's very promising here to see him improve as much as he has defensively. And he's not a great shooter either. A lot of these guys down here aren't amazing shooters, but Jeremiah Robinson Earl, he's able to score and he's able to get rebounds. So I feel like he's a solid player, but maybe can't quite stretch the floor as much as you would like. And at number 38, I've got Joshua Primo coming from Alabama. So this guy is a very good three-point shooter, high-energy electric player, and definitely a guy to be excited about coming into this draft. I was a little surprised that he didn't stay in school, though. Not a great defender. Can't really Can't really facilitate an offense that much, but he's aggressive on the boards and should be a pretty exciting player. I think he definitely has the potential to be a high-level scorer in the NBA, at least to some extent. But Joshua Primo, I don't really see him as anything more than a solid contributor off the bench, just because of his overall game. Defensively, he's not that great. At number 39, I have Nashawn Highland. You might know him better as Bones Highland from VCU. So this is another electric scorer, great three-point shooter here. But he had to take a lot of shots for VCU, and he has shooting experience. He has scoring experience. He's pretty solid. He's a pretty solid scorer. So he's coming off of his sophomore year. Freshman year averaged 0.8 steals per game. Sophomore year averaged 1.9. This is a guy that has become a much better defender and is very, very aggressive on the ball. He's able to facilitate. He's able to rebound. I do like Bones Highland a lot, and he's a very, very good scorer. At number 40, I've got Aaron Henry. Aaron Henry is a very, very good defender, and we sort of knew that. But overall, scoring ability just isn't quite there yet, but he's a solid facilitator. He can rebound, and at a pretty high level for a guard. But, the overall scoring ability, I just don't really think it's there to rank him much higher. That is all I have for this video, so be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, and let me know, who do you think is the most underrated prospect in this NBA draft? I want you to know what you think in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and go subscribe to my live streaming channel and my Clemson channel if you're not already subscribed to either of those. They will each be linked in the description, as they always are. And I'll have a mock draft coming in the next couple of days. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time here on Sports Earth.